Last time on Put a Cherry on It.
This one is going to be coming out a little bit early as an apology for being late, but you can expect the next episode on June 3rd. June 3rd. It's October 30th of 2022, and it looks like we owe y'all a little bit of an explanation. Where have we been? So, it's not funny really, but I'm just laughing because, as you guys heard, we were like so sure we were gonna stick to a schedule the last time we posted one of these, and then for various reasons we didn't. Several things happened over the summer for us, some medical stuff, but more importantly, we lost a pet, our cat, who we had for 12 really great years. He was a fantastic companion throughout my 20s, and losing him we were like dreading it because we knew he had certain issues, and it was like going to shorten his lifespan. We just didn't know exactly how much, and 12 years is not bad, but his personality was just such a sweet cat. Every time anyone would come to the house, he would want to go with them, not like leave, but he would just like be all over any brand new person. He was not scared of anybody unless they were like, running at him or something, but he wanted to meet every person that came by, every delivery person, whatever. And he was just like, I don't know. So losing him shook the system, so to speak, so intensely that we just needed time to grieve before we could do anything else in this realm. Like, our creative energy was just gone. And I think anyone who is neurodivergent and has been close with a pet or any animal and then lost that pet can probably relate. It's very. I've also lost a parent and grandparents and all kinds of things, and it's hard to compare it to losing a person because then you get into all kind of like semantic battles, but it's very similar. Like, I don't know, it feels almost like the same path of emotions as I went through when I lost my mom. So yeah, we needed to take a break, but you know what? We've had time, and it was something that we had been dreading for so long. We didn't realize it, but once it was done, and we kind of got through some of the initial shock, and then, the waves of grief that sort of hit you later, and things reminding you of them, and, we still have dreams that feel real, and then you wake up, and it's sort of the first time I've actually ever been able to tell when I'm dreaming because I know he's gone. And in the dream, there's like some kind of logic will kick in where it's like, well, wait, this can't be real because he's not here anymore. So that's been interesting, but it was also kind of like a weightlifting where we don't have to wonder when it'll happen anymore. He's not in pain. Fortunately, it happened pretty quickly. Like, he was great and lovely, and then a couple of days he just wasn't feeling good. The vet said we'll give him the weekend, we gave him some fluids, blah, blah, blah. And then he waited until I went to take a shower, which I hear is kind of a common thing. They don't want to, pass when you're around. And then he died, and it sucked a lot. But here we are, and we made it through. We knew we would, but, Anyway, I don't want to harp on it too long, so we're going to move on from that, but we are happy to be back now. Going ahead, rather than try to keep this podcast on a weekly schedule, this one is going to be a little more freeform, mostly because I want to make sure, since it sort of is in the advice self-help realm, that when I'm doing it, I'm able to give you quality. And if I'm just not, it takes a lot of mental energy for me to do this one. I love doing it, but it is a lot. just because I want to make sure I'm thinking of every angle for the people who are listening and all of that. So when I have the energy, you are going to get these. They might come out, sporadically for a while. I'm also going to try to do things like this when it's a holiday. It's a good time for me generally to do this. It just kind of works out that way. So that's why we're here today. I hope that you guys will continue listening. Part of the thing that brought me back too was out of curiosity, I looked at the stats on this one, and there's a lot of people listening, like way more than I thought. So I kind of felt bad leaving it where we did last time, promising to be back, and now everyone's like, what the F, where'd you go? Well, sorry, hi, I'm here. Also going ahead, I'm hoping to have some interviews in the future with different people. I don't really want to keep it limited to anything. I kind of want this to be just a place for learning, however we can do that. So I don't know, you might hear from a former professor of mine, you might hear from someone who shares a fandom interest. It could be anything, really. So just stay tuned for some of that. And I'm also hoping to get a lot of autistic adults, any type of neurodivergent adult. I want to help give a voice to my community. So anyone who would like to be interviewed by me, come on here and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Reach out to us via email, sunshinefarmentertainment@gmail.com, or DM us on Instagram, Sunshine Farm Entertainment as well. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch.
Hotel Carry On presents the Halloween special. Hotel Pumpkin Audit.
This is going to be a little bit of a long one, because when we were done recording all of the different segments we wanted to do for today's show, we realized that it was going to go over quite a bit, but we figured it is a holiday special, and specials can go over. Plus, we haven't seen you in a while, so hey, and just consider it some bonus content. And if you want to skip certain parts, feel free. The first up is going to be the watch through of Halloweentown, where we watch the movie with you, essentially give you some commentary on it, have some cool conversations or conversations between us and you sprung forth from the movie. And then we will tie up with the classic to Am I the Assholes? Because I know that's probably why a lot of you are here at the end. And I'll see you at the end in the outro. Welcome to a very Halloween special on Put a Cherry on It. Tonight we are going to do something where we take a note from our other podcast, Moonstar, the Sailor Moon podcast, which is more of, it's not really we record our reactions on there. It's also for the littles of the system and everything. Mainly that is their show, but we watch Halloweentown every year with them, for them, however you want to think about it. So we decided to do that with you guys this year. And it's one of our favorite movies for Halloween. I like the other classics, like Hocus Pocus is fine and all of that, but this one is kind of they're my Halloween family. Like, they comfort me. I love the music in it too. The music is fantastic. So if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, I probably got away with having it in here somewhere. You maybe heard it already. If it's on YouTube, I probably had to remove it because Disney is, pretty harsh about that stuff. But who knows? We'll see. I went back to start it over just so I could talk about the intro scene a little bit. This pumpkin you see here at the beginning of Halloweentown as you're coming through these branches with the really great, just classic dramatic Halloween music playing. That's a lot of people might already know this, but this is an actual place, and that pumpkin is there all year. But on Halloween, they light it every year. I'll have to look it up and add it in here later. I'll try to remember. If not, I'll put it in the notes. But yeah, you can visit, and I believe they do festivals every year. So that's something fun to maybe think about if you love this movie too. Who knows? Maybe we'll visit and talk about it on here someday. I truly miss trick-or-treating. It was one of the most freeing things about being a kid, because I don't know, there was something about getting to go around the neighborhood with your friends where you didn't have to worry about school for that day anymore. You didn't have to, like, just, I don't know, it was like suspending everything for just one night where none of that mattered anymore. And then everything was all magical, which is kind of my vibe, and I don't know. There's some kind of an energy to Halloween. I still feel it even now as an adult, even though I'm not out trick-or-treating and stuff. I can just be sitting in my house not watching anything Halloween related, and the energy feels different, you know? Marnie, she's practically a grown-up. She's like 11. Oh yeah, I've seen this movie a million times, and somehow we managed to forget certain details, but for some reason I always forget that the mom is like so anti-Halloween until right when she has this stance. Then I'm like, oh yeah, and it all comes flooding back. Also, her friend in the clown outfit is my favorite. It would really be a bummer to be in one of those houses where you just cannot. The whole intro with the mom being anti-Halloween and wanting to protect them and not letting her go out with her friends and everything, was not my experience at all growing up as a kid. I actually lived in a neighborhood that was like the neighborhood to trick-or-treat in. Not Halloweentown level, but very close. And it wasn't even rich. It was very, like, I would say middle class, average, or below. The thing was, people just showed out with the decorations. There was something about that neighborhood that made that, I don't know, they did the same thing for Christmas. And it's one of those places where people just come in their cars and come from all over to go there. And not even because they gave out great candy. It was always a spectacular. I think my favorite thing that I remember, a guy used to make these gigantic, real frozen popsicles. I don't know why. He would make one giant orange popsicle that he would put out on his front lawn, and it would just slowly melt throughout the night. I'm sure it wasn't edible, but I just thought that was so random, but so cool. Hey, back to the movie. Debbie Reynolds is my favorite portrayal of a witch, probably, in media. I love Harry Potter and stuff, too. Of course, Professor McGonagall's up there, but the grandma character being the witch, where she's sweet and loving, but also cunning and smart, and not afraid to, like, circumvent her own daughter when she knows it's the right thing to do and stuff like that. I don't know. For whatever reason, chocolate chip cookies in movies just always look the most delicious, even though I can tell those are probably Chips Ahoy. But still. And also the floating cookie with the green screen, the very obvious. It didn't look so obvious to me as a kid. It looked like magic, but I don't care. I still love it. The mom just grabbing it out of the sky to eat the cookie. I gotta be honest, the mom, I need to look up these actors' names, but so good in these movies. Her acting is just fantastic. Of course, everybody wants gifts from Grandma, because she always brings them these, like, cool... Like, she's kind of their Halloween, I guess, that since they don't get to go out trick-or-treating, which is... Isn't that kind of, like, what normal grandparents are like anyway? You know, they kind of tend to bring the, spoil the kids a little bit. Can you and Grandma not fight for once? We haven't seen her in a year. Wouldn't you, if, as a kid, just be like, why is she only ever here on Halloween, though? Her Mary Poppins bag filled with candy. Of course, there's like tons of butterscotch in there. I love that detail. And a little skeleton dude. Sophie telling her she dressed up for Halloween. She's like, this is just my outfit. Oh yeah, just kidding. Totally a costume. She's a random thing of garlic. Hang it on the door. It'll keep the vampires away. A jar of eyeballs. That's something I might have, like, not brought just because they're children. I love that. I've always said the movies can teach us about life. They drop some great wisdom in here, if you look for it. A random stone with a hieroglyphic thing on it. I don't know what it says, but I'm sure... I don't know. I'd be curious. The brothers on the mom's side. Stop encouraging the Halloween stuff. Even she feels like something is up. She's like, all this weird stuff happens. Marnie suspecting she's a witch. Grandma just ripping these costumes out like, here you go. Woo! Oh my god, the troll. Dylan. I think I'm a big pimple. I love Marnie's princess costume too because it's so old school princess because it has this big cone hat with the different colored veils hanging down on it. And it's just so festive looking. Now it would not look like that. Debbie Reynolds is a ghost. It's so good. Oh, she's dead now. I'm sad now. Oh, Debbie. Mom's got to scold Grandma. Don't be teaching them no magic. Oh, yeah, I forgot. She asks her to move back there first. Dylan just comes in and tells them to set their thermostat to 68 to conserve energy. Is 68 like warm up north? Because to me that's freaking freezing. Oh, the Halloweentown book is really cute. I think you can buy it. I might try to get one. I love the illustration of the town, but then also when they see Marnie as a witch. And I like that you get to see most of the little monsters that they show in the book now actually there. Siblings are so mean to each other. She almost got away with telling her. So close. Oh, she looks like she's gonna cry. Kimberly J. Brown is the actress who plays Marnie. She does such a good job with facial expressions. I think she also did a movie called Quince on Disney Channel. I saw her in some other things too. But I don't know what else she's done. I would love to look at that later. See, and this is one of those things where I have to be on the grandma side because it's like the parent is trying to stop something from happening where it's like if she hits 13, she will lose these powers forever. That's not really her choice to make for her kid. And I think that that's an idea that in 2022 a lot of people would agree with. I know this is a fun Halloween movie, but hey, why else do you listen to this show, right? But if we're drawing parallels to real life, this style of parenting back then, which would be when I was coming up, was kind of how it was. The idea is anybody who has a kid has the right to raise their kid exactly how they see fit, including making choices for them and for their bodies that really are not fair. And that is, you see a lot of the trans movement fighting against that. And I think that we can probably thank them for why parenting is starting to change a little bit. And the notion that, hey, maybe if a kid is telling you, don't do this to my body, or I need this done, or whatever, yeah, you probably should listen, because just because they're not 18 yet, it doesn't mean they're not an autonomous human, you know? Anyway, fun Halloween movie. They're introducing Calabar, the idea of him, and how he's turning everything dark back in Halloweentown. She's asking for help. This, I also think, is like weirdly selfish of the daughter. She's telling you the home where you grew up is like in trouble, and you're just like totally dismissing her, but you only see her once a year. So if you're wrong, Debbie Reynolds is one of my favorite actresses. She's so good in every role she ever played. I mean, I see her. I've seen her in so many things, but my favorites have to be this, obviously. She did, in the original Roseanne, there was an episode where she played Dan's mother, who on the show was notoriously in an insane asylum in California. And she came and visited and tried to kill Dan several times before ultimately getting put back on her meds and having to leave. And then she also played Grace Adler's mother in Will and Grace. I think most people know that. Dylan not wanting magic so bad. Why would you not? I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Grass is always greener, right? They saw her walking with the bag, just following her. They figured it out. I would at least keep the garlic and cook with it. Why is she throwing it away? This lady is acting like garlic straight up is just... Well, I guess it's a Halloween movie. She's supposed to. The bus stop is cute. It's pretty simple. It's just like a circle pad with the spider web behind the orange words bus stop, but still, I like it. Oh, they're talking about deja vu. I have that so much. The bus is here, go. It looks like a straight up school bus. It doesn't, it's just a school bus with a couple of crows on top of it. That's so funny. The Frankenstein. The Frankenstein is so... I think he was meant to be gay, honestly. Oh, there's a couple of, like, cackling witches on there. I kind of love that there's just other random witches around. And it's not just, like, they're the ones or whatever. Yeah, this City Hall building that's behind it, I think, is the actual City Hall building for wherever this is. Let me just find that for you all now. Helens, Oregon? St. Helens, Oregon transforms into the real Halloweentown every October. We're gonna have to visit sometime. The Pumpkinhead people in this one just make me laugh because it's just straight up like a normal looking mom and her kid, and then like a happy jack-o'-lantern on their head instead of a normal head. Sophie came too. Of course she did. I forgot. Something about my memory. I can remember real life so vividly. Stuff on screens just doesn't stick to my brain. I don't know why. Not very well, anyway. Sophie felt it right away. Oh yeah, the mayor. He's kind of like a more handsome Willy Wonka, to be honest. With a lollipop in his ear. I think that was the vibe they were going for, now that I mention it. I wish that we could make, like, as fans, content based on things like this. and then have an ability to market it in some way where the corporations couldn't like crush us. I don't think that if some fans got together and say made a Halloweentown inspired JRPG and then sold it on, the Switch store for $15 or $10 a pop, I really don't know that Disney would lose all that much money. And frankly, to be honest, if they were smart, they would start making licensing accessible to fans for projects, because it's like, then you can have fans just agree to give like a percentage, like 10 to 15 whatever percent of sale profits to the company that they have the agreement with, and not have to pay a whole upfront thing. But then they're also doing it mostly themselves. Like, Disney doesn't have to give them resources. Disney doesn't have a budget. They just kind of get to collect the coin. You know what I'm saying? Like, fans would... And then it just brings more attention to the brand. It brings more attention... I think they just want... I think the issue probably is they want creative control over what happens with these characters. And then I guess if they start doing that... I don't know. I still think if it was like... I still think it could be done if the correct parameters were involved. Anyway, that's another tangent. Whenever I watch stuff from this time period, that would be anything filmed probably before 2002, 2005 or later, there's something about it that just like, even though, I don't know, maybe I'm dumb, maybe it's just like technology, but lighting when people are outside looks so different to me. Even maybe they just chose certain days, I don't know why, but it's just not as intensely burningly bright as it is now. Her just trying random spells to open this lock. Of course, while they're fighting, Sophie just does it. She turned the frog into a lock. Oh, she turned the lock into a frog. You get it. Instant witch's brew. I love that so much. Hey, store-bought is fine. And she puts it in the microwave. I loved that detail so much. Bubble, bubble, toil, and trouble. Setting on the microwave. Those little details are what makes movies like this just so much more charming. Oh, the witch's glass. It looks like a giant cauldron, which they're using to watch, like, they're swirling stuff to see what's going on. Well, by they, I mean Debbie Reynolds' character. Aggie is her name. Oh, it shows Calabar's true form, which is not the most favorable looking. Oh, just a little witch's brew. I love that she at least had a plan, you know? Are you gonna do all this dramatic stuff to see if it works? No, I'm just gonna put stuff in it, see if the light goes on. I love that. I love that. Spells are more powerful when more than one witch joins in. I love this moment. Even though she was just throwing glitter on it, I don't care. But that doesn't work. That's what I get for using instant. Oh, we have to go collect ingredients, but be careful. The ingredients collecting is cute. Oh, we gotta cut back to Mom. Back in the real world. Eating this giant-ass bag of candy herself. I mean, very realistic, though, I'm sure. I love the story between the humans and the creatures of Halloweentown and why they separated and everything. It's basically... They used to live together, but humans feared them because they were different and, strange, and tried to destroy them. And so the monsters tried to make them as miserable as possible, and then eventually they had to separate. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Oh, her angry friend. Harriet. She looks so scary. Oh, it's the Willy Wonka dude again. We all know who he is, right? So classic. You tell someone who's up to no good that you think something weird is going on, and the response is always, listen, just relax and do nothing. She doesn't buy him for not 1 second. The brooms. It's supposed to be the equivalent of cars, of course. For witches, you get to fly. I love all the different designs, honestly. This part was fun. And then the broom salesman, supposed to be like a car salesman. They did a good job with this. I don't know why he's also like he's like an Elvis zombie. It's such a weird choice. Oh yeah. Then she meets the big cheese, who is this right now he's a handsome looking young man, but as we know when the magic wears off later, no spoilers. Oh, he trips on the brooms. Well, he's being a big jerk. This guy who played the salesman was like living his life doing this part, and you can tell, and I appreciate that. And then they fly home. It's like crazy bad green screen, but still, it's so much fun. Can we just discuss the reality of sitting on a broomstick and holding onto it with two hands and being like miles and miles up in the air? And if you faint, if a bird hits you in the face, if you slip off for some reason, does it come get you? Like, what happened? What gonna happen? That is just not for me. Like, unless the flying is like my magic on my body itself, and I don't have to concentrate on it, and I can just like flutter around like a butterfly, I don't want to do it. Oh, mom is here, and she's so butthurt. Of course, Marnie wants to get trained as a witch. Who wouldn't? This is so crazy to me. The adults fighting over what your kid's gonna be. Like, maybe your kid gets to choose what they're gonna be. It's, I never thought about it so much before watching it this year, that concept was so heavily in the plot of the first movie. But that was really, really a big contention point back then. It still is today. I know it is, but it's so it's such a different time. The 90s and the 2000s are really peculiar in the sense that it's like everything was kind of candy coated a little bit, but there was a lot of underlying darkness and control going on. And even though I think a lot of it was probably well intentioned, like with this mom who thinks she's doing something good, protecting her from this stuff, it's taking choices away from her. It's not giving her a full concept of the world she actually could potentially be living in. And it's, unless the grandma had intervened to tell her the truth, she would have I don't know. She would have been ill prepared for life, in my opinion. So yeah, and that is kind of like that kind of was how it was. I do love her threatening to move away and join a motorcycle gang. Like, really, little witch lady? The two-headed bus people. It's a scene that I could probably do without after seeing it once. Oh, they approach the mayor to try and ask for his help to get back to the real world. And of course, he's obsessed with the mom. Oh, he does a rose thing. He gives her this like shriveled up rose and then it grows into a red one. It's like all blooming and stuff. Very suave. I don't know. I'm probably like if someone did that to me, it would be hard not to be like, ooh. At least for a second. And then I'd be like, okay, but like, could you stop talking so loud? And you're kind of close. And also, I think I can smell your breath from here. Oh my gosh, his pincushion lady assistant is such a great underrated character. And I wish she was in more scenes. I think this is the only time you really get to see her, but she's so funny. And I love the way she moves and bounces around. If you marry him, I'm not calling him dad. I wouldn't either. The big cheese taunting her about not knowing about the bad guy. I'm not gonna, of course, talk about every single scene in this movie. Y'all have probably seen it too, and you can go watch it, but oh, I love the way they had this thing where it was like so he would cast this darkness, I guess, onto a person, right? And then they would change in some way. And then eventually, I think they would just find their way to the movie theater where they would sit down and turn into statues staring at this screen that's just, a vortex. I don't quite know what the purpose was. Like, okay. This is such a classic villain thing, though, from this era, too, where it's sort of like the motives are pretty unclear, but the character design is decent. I'll be honest, the real, like, things that make this movie so special it's not the villain, in my opinion. He's sort of the kind of, like, an afterthought to me when I remember this movie. I remember the family. Of course, my mind goes straight to Demi Reynolds. I remember the music, the town itself. The villain, I'm always kind of like, oh yeah, what's his name? Balthazar? Calabar? Something, yeah, him. Okay. His design is like, billowing cloak, mask that makes his face look like leather, beady red eyes, no teeth or very few teeth. He blasts Aggie here, and she ends up stuck behind. Everyone comes in, trying to save her. She's like, go. She protects them, and we get to see the mom do something. Well, she puts sunflowers all over this guy. I love how earnest the mom is in this moment. Oh, she gets hit. I forgot. Gwen, no. Okay, so he's trying to basically I think the idea is he's trying to just become the most powerful thing here by taking out anyone who might not bend to him, I guess. This is a classic Disney thing too that has, in a lot of children movies, that has to happen where the adults are taken out of the equation somehow. I watched another one recently. They do the same thing because now it's up to the kids to save the day, which is what, most movies geared towards children are probably going to be like that. Somehow, I think as an ASD adult, though, I still relate more to the kids than the adults. So they have to finish getting these ingredients so they can do the witch's brew and get the talisman going. Collecting the ingredients is sort of a moment of being funny again after this big serious thing happens where they, for all they know, I mean, the mom and grandma could just be gone forever, but they're not going to give up, right? They go into this hair salon to get the werewolf hair. The guy doing hair is very clearly gay. From what I can tell, he looks pretty cute under the makeup. I want to know who played him now, kind of. I love the way he moves. It's funny. She's an herb, not a shrub. So the guy giving the, like, plant lady a trim. I love the salon scene. It's cute. Then they get the sweat from the basketball. What is it? Like hound dog people? I don't understand what these are supposed to be. Oh, and then this part is so funny to me. The ghost sweat is what it is. There's like a big guy ghost, and he goes into this sweating thing, and they turn it up really high, and then they take the sweat, and then when he gets out, he's all skinny. It's so weird. Thank God we don't do that to ourselves anymore. Oh, and then the vampire tooth. That, as a kid, used to squeam me out, but, like, as an adult, it's so obviously fake and goofy. Benny the driver, he's fantastic. Except now the bad thing's in him, as per Sophie. You know what's so funny? I've met people in real life who, not like to this extreme, but just when you talk to them, there's sort of something in their eyes, something about the way that, I don't know, it's like you can just kind of feel a darkness coming from them. I don't know what that is. It doesn't happen that much, but every now and then it will, and I'm just kind of like, I'm gonna just not interact here, or I'm gonna move away, or whatever. They made the witch's brew, not using instant. Oh yeah, I love this moment because Marnie can't remember the spell, but Sophie remembers it because she's the youngest, and she did it by putting it into a song. And it's a teaching tool we use with kids in this country, but it is one of the most powerful teaching tools because pay attention to like songs that you love, that you have sang a long time or heard on the radio. That stuff is just kind of like glued to your brain. You know what I mean? And I probably said it on here and I'll say it again. There is scientific evidence that shows music reaches parts of the brain that words and facts and whatever else just doesn't. I don't think we know what that is yet. I love how they figured out where to put the talisman. So they're not sure what to do because they go to the theater to try and confront him and win it, and they fail, or he's not there. And they're trying to figure out what to do, right? And Marnie remembers Grandma saying, "Our Halloween traditions are imitations of theirs. Where do you put the candle on Halloween?" And then the idea is you put the talisman in the pumpkin at the center of the town square to activate it. And I really love that idea that, like, of there being another sort of heightened world out there somewhere that exists, and everything we do here, like a lot of these sort of traditions and things that seem so inane to us that maybe we don't think that hard about, are grander, more intense things in those worlds. You know what I mean? It's, I don't know, it's something fun to think about for sure. Uh-oh, the big bad is coming to take over the town in a big tornado so he can appear by the... Looks so funny. Oh, that's right. Okay. I don't know if they, like, if they said it before and I missed it or what, but his whole idea is he wants to end the exile from the human world. He wants to go and take over the human world because he is a superiority complex and thinks they're better. That is a classic villain motivation for this time for sure. Now, I'm not going to recap the climax of the movie too much, just in case there are people who don't want to hear it, but basically, we all know they're going to save the day. I love the way that it happens at the end, where she has to get to the pumpkin, and it's like, oh yeah, Luke is his name. So Luke has to put on her cloak to kind of divert the attention so she can get to the pumpkin and install the talisman, which then, of course, will blast light and banish the darkness, as is the classic trope for this time. But still, it's so satisfying in this movie. There's a moment where it looks like they're going to fail. She gets hit by him twice. And then drops it. And it lands perfectly. The light goes through the portal. Probably because I think whatever happens with Calabar shines through there, probably. And revitalizes all of the frozen people. Everyone is returned to their normal selves. And the day is saved by the Cromwells. This scene where... So they make you think the day is saved. And then he actually gets a hold of the talisman. And you think, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then all of them go after him. Ugh, I love it so much. All of them casting together is so cool. Oh yeah, Dylan shows his powers. Hey, chocolate bar, what a random. It's all is so great. And then with their powers combined, the talisman turns on him. No. Such a happy ending, as you would expect from a Disney Channel movie, of course. And then we get to see Luke looking all trolly. The thing is, and they say this here, and I'm sure a lot of people listening might not agree with me, where she's like, oh, I really wouldn't have cared about your face, like, if you would have just been your normal self. That really is true for most people. There is something about the human experience where we automatically want to put our insecurities onto other people, and it's a thing that happens a lot with younger people that you hopefully age out of, but there is a knee-jerk reaction to anytime you look at someone who you perceive to be more attractive than you for whatever reason. That might be they have a face that is more symmetrical than yours. Maybe they don't have acne or something and you do. Maybe they have a different type of hair texture that you want. Whatever it is that you're reacting to, people will automatically just assume the worst in that person, and it is 100% an insecurity thing, when in reality, you're assuming that that person is judging you, and therefore then you're treating that person badly, when if you hadn't ever done anything to them in the first place, they probably would have been happy to get to know you, I'm hoping we start to move away from that, because as a young person, I'm sure I've been guilty of that in my past before, and I think it's worse now than ever with social media, because everyone's seeing all of everyone's best foot forward online now, which isn't even close to reality. Like, it was one thing when it was just like, oh, this guy in my class is like more attractive than me or whatever, but then it's like oceans and oceans of, like, there's always going to be somebody more beautiful than the next person, we gotta just stop comparing. I mean, jeez. Anyway, Halloweentown is probably always going to be my favorite Halloween movie. The first one is the best. The second one is okay. After that, the series, I will admit, sort of devolves. I would say I'll watch the first one just about every year. I need a couple of years between the rest because they just don't hold up as well. Although any excuse to see Debbie Reynolds, I'm kind of here for it. Let's do some wrap-ups here. So, Put a Pumpkin on It was supposed to be the title of our Halloween special today. And instead of putting cherries on things, we're going to put pumpkins on them because it's Halloween. And the pumpkin that we're going to put on this movie, or harvest from this movie, I guess, there's going to be a few things. But the first one, we already touched on it a little. Parents, a lot of you probably already have gotten this message, but just in case you didn't yet, I really encourage you, whatever's going on with your kids, two things. First, I understand when you have children, you kind of have this preconceived notion in your mind of what their life is going to be like, maybe what your life will be like, having a family, having kids. You want certain things to happen because of expectations that you put on yourself based on what your family maybe did when you were a kid, or stuff you wished you did, or you saw on TV, or you saw your friend, whatever, wherever that comes from. There are these sort of predetermined expectations that you're putting largely onto your child. I think most parents do that even when they try not to, but you've got to we've got to learn as a society, there are just certain things we cannot do anymore to kids, no matter what the reasoning is. And that could be so many different things. I hear a lot of talk these days about stuff like circumcision with males, and how that is something that more and more people are not doing unless it's for religious reasons, because it's penile trauma, no matter how you slice it. I didn't even mean that. That was literally an accident. But it is penile trauma from an extremely young age that they have no control over, they didn't ask for, and then these men are growing up and getting shot out into society no wonder they're full of anger, and that's I know that's such like a hard left. I'm sure people were not expecting to be hearing about circumcision after a Halloweentown special, but I really do feel like it connects to this topic where it's like she was trying to take away the mother, Marnie's powers, which is a permanent, undoable choice, but she turns 13 and they're gone forever. It's kind of similar, and I made this parallel earlier with the trans identity thing too. I myself consider myself to be non-binary or gender fluid. I prefer the term gender fluid personally because on certain days I feel certain ways. It's not really like a set, I'm always non-binary, so I think gender fluid is why I prefer that for me. But there's so much pressure put on children just to be the gender that they happened to be assigned at birth, which I'm sure there are a lot of trans people we've never heard of from history who just lived their life as a visually cis person, got married, had kids, did the whole shebang, and died, and absolutely never had a chance to express their truth. And I'm sure that went on for centuries, Now, finally, that's not the case in a lot of places, but I'm hoping that we're moving to a world where parents understand you can only do so much to control your kids. You've got to keep them out of trouble, certainly. You got to do your due diligence. But at the same time, when it comes to choices about your kid's body that are permanent, possibly choices about medication, whether to take or not to take certain medications, we've got to listen to kids when they're being earnest. I think, everybody knows. Anyway, we've got to move on from that. But the other, I think, more fun lesson that we can take from a movie like this is that I think it's important, even with the seriousness and the heaviness of the world and trying to better ourselves. I'm doing that. I have therapy and I'm always trying to figure out better ways to take care of myself so that I can just move forward as like a better participant on the planet, which sounds woo. I don't know. I don't really care how it sounds, frankly. But I think that a lot of people do that. I think more people probably don't. I think we're moving in the direction where more people will. But even with all of that and doing all of that, sometimes you really do need to just watch a kid's movie and not take everything so seriously all of the time. And it's such a juxtaposition from the topic I'm jumping off of, I know, because it's such a serious thing than to go into that. But the universe is all about balance. And what a better time to find that balance than Halloween, right? It is one of the most magical times of the year. It is a rare time when many adults feel like they have license to be a kid again in a certain capacity, meaning whether they're dressed up at a party or, watching a kid's movie that they always love. Whatever you're doing for Halloween, it is sort of a juvenile time. So I do think people are more in touch with their inner child at this time of year, which I love. And yeah, I don't know. I hope everybody listening is doing just that. You've been working on yourselves a lot. This year, the past few years, has been horrendously difficult for absolutely everybody. So going into the 2022 holiday season, let's just have some fun. Like, show up, vote, do what you need to do, all of the important things, do your therapies and all of that. But when the holidays hit, lean in however you want to lean in. That's my advice to y'all. So I think we're going to cut this segment here, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. All right, as promised, or I guess I promised this to you in my head, but I know that the realm of this show is typically answering advice or giving advice to certain questions that we find online. So we are absolutely still going to do that today. Here we go. We've got 2 topics, both focus on education, and I found each one kind of interesting in its own way. I hope you will too. Here's the first one. Am I the asshole for reporting my son's, quote, good teacher for taking his confiscated phone home with her when it got damaged? All right, that's the question. Let's see what happened. Last week, my son, 10, got his phone confiscated at school. He was mucking around with it during class, and the school rules are clear about phone usage during class without permission, so I totally understood. The normal protocol is that the phone would go to the office, where it would be returned to the student by the end of the day or the next day. His teacher, however, apparently forgot to stop by the office before going home after school, so she accidentally took it home with her, and through some negligence, the phone broke in the hands of her toddler. Admittedly, she was very upfront about it and even came to our house personally to tell us what happened and apologize, which I respect. She suggested the repayment plan for the phone and offered an old phone of hers for him in the meantime, but it was essentially a brick with a screen. After she left, I sent an email to the school about everything simply because I think something the school should be involved in, since she's a teacher and easily took home a confiscated device, even though it was a mistake. I received a response Monday morning apologizing for what happened and promised to address the issue. So my SIL, I don't know what that means, works at the high school, but smokes with the teachers at the junior school, which is where she bumped into this teacher, who was mad and said that we were being assholes reporting it since she already promised to pay for the phone, offered an alternative, and is a good teacher, so we're messing with her career unnecessarily. So yeah, am I the asshole? Question mark. Before I get into my thoughts, I picked out my favorite answer, and then we'll dive in here. My favorite answer was, why in the hell is the first thread here about the teacher who made a very plausible mistake and offered to pay for the phone, running some kind of elaborate con? The real story here is this woman needs to talk to her union rep if she's being asked to administer a flawed policy where teachers become responsible for securing expensive electronics in a chaotic setting, and her administration is so backbiting that an understandable human error like this is going to impede her career this much. I know that's a little hard to follow, but let's talk about what that comment was in reference to. So I guess the first or the highest voted thing on this topic was basically saying that the teacher's an asshole because she shouldn't have taken and broken the phone in the first place, blah, 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 all this stuff. And going, just basically, it just devolved into this elaborate thing where it's like, are you sure that the broken phone even broke? Maybe the teacher kept it because she needed a new phone. I saw that something similar happened before and the teacher was trying to con the student out of a phone. What a brilliant way to get a phone. And I have to say, as someone who's been a teacher for 15 years, I can tell that all of the people saying that stuff are from possibly, likely, probably of certain groups, meaning still in school, so very young, or an adult who was having issues with teachers when they were a kid, so now anytime anything comes up involving a teacher where they can attack that teacher, they use it as a way to kind of get back at their childhood, which is a really that is not limited to teachers. It happens in all types of we're all sort of doing it a little bit everywhere. We're these little projectors walking around, you know what I mean? But this is sort of what's going on here, because the teacher made a mistake. And literally, there was no possible better way that they could have handled it. And still this person felt that they needed to go and report it to the school. No, I think this comes from a few things. I think there might be a little bit of ignorance going on here with the parent, because if you understood like the pressure that teachers are under, I think the fact that this teacher came and like was all, first of all, offering the payment plan was plenty. They really didn't even need to give you a replacement phone, frankly, in my opinion, because the phone should, like, going back to how all of this happened, you don't need to be giving your kid an expensive phone to bring to school. No matter how you cut it, no matter how you dice it, everybody knows the rules at school. You need to be, if you're going to cry about an emergency, you can get a flip phone from Walmart for like $20 to $30 that has limited minutes on it if it's really about them getting in touch with you. And that is the school phone. And then they won't be tempted to take it out during class. Now, I understand not everybody can afford something like that. So if you can just have the one phone or whatever, fine. But teachers are up against so much now that, and here's the thing with the phones that I think we need to address, because it's not only limited to teaching, but I've been hearing stories from certain students, and I'm really not cool with this as an educator, and you're going to see more exodus of teachers if this does not get addressed. But apparently now teachers who, for whatever reason, the kids don't like them, typically the teacher is, trying to do their job, and it's just difficult because they're overwhelmed with how many students are in their class or whatever. And now kids are filming them and putting them on TikTok. And now teachers are becoming TikTok famous, unbeknownst to them, and they're getting harassed in person. Just going to Walmart, going to Publix, going wherever. They're reaping no benefit because these jerk students are putting them online without their permission. Those students are getting all of this like views and whatever and all these hypes. And now this person who frankly probably did absolutely nothing wrong, they're going through literally like terrifying, crazy stuff. If the guns weren't enough, the fact that now if you're a teacher and a kid just decides they don't like you because, maybe their family's homophobic and you're a gay teacher, or maybe you're a person of color and their family's racist and they want to get you, they just have to put you online and direct the right butthurt army in your direction. You know what I mean? So I'm coming in a little hot on this, if you can't tell. This does hit a little close to home for me as a teacher, where it's like, not every teacher is good. I'm the first to admit that. And if a teacher is being, abusive to students or something, or if there is an issue, yeah, you need to deal with it. But little things like this, where it's clearly just a parent exercising their power because they're frustrated about something else, and they just wanted to, I'm sorry, what did you want the school to do? They're not going to give you money. They're not going to give you another phone. You had to know the only outcome would be some type of career problem for this teacher. Anyway, I'm usually not this harsh on here, but I do think the OP is the big asshole in this situation, because the teacher couldn't have done anything better. Like, a mistake was made. They're giving money. That teacher could have honestly contacted their union or something and told them what happened and been like, hey, can you guys please help me deal with this? I don't know what to do. And then she wouldn't have had to probably pay anything out of her pocket. I don't think, because the union probably would have stepped in and done something regarding the policy and been like, this is how the policy is flawed. She was required to bring the phone down to the office and couldn't just leave her classroom to do that. So it ended up in her bag, and then she blah, blah, blah. Like, it would be a chance to address the real issue, which is the policy here. Yeah, I gotta say, going forward, to all of you parents out there, when you're dealing with teachers, I understand your job as parents is very difficult, but so is our job as teachers, and you want to work with the teacher in the end, because your child is going to have the best experience possible. And isn't that what you want? Like, this is why I say that. Going forward, your kid is probably still in this teacher's class. And no matter how correct you might have been, and no matter how incorrect it might be, this teacher is a human being, and there's no possible way that the memory of this incident is not going to, at the very least, cross the back of her mind every time she interacts with your child. Now, I'm not saying she's going to, like, do anything crazy or, like, fail them or anything, but it's kind of like your kid is probably going to feel awkward around the teacher now. She's going to feel weird anytime you have to deal with her in the future about anything. Now, every time she goes to... Do you really think that, like, she's gonna honor this payment agreement now? Because she doesn't really have to unless you take her to court. And if you're gonna take a teacher to court over that, I mean, by all means, go and do it. But I don't think, outside of the bubble of the internet, I don't think it's gonna go your way. Like, I think you're gonna look like the jerk family who is attacking a teacher that made a mistake, tried to make it up to you, and then you tried to hurt them. I'm sorry, I don't know any... I know that Reddit is probably going to disagree with me here, and frankly, like, go off if you do. Honestly, if you're on the opposite side of this and would like to come on and talk about it, I won't be like this aggressive with you or anything. I would actually love to hear a different stance on this specific one, because I feel like, being a teacher, maybe I'm not seeing this correctly, but I don't know. I do think I'm on point here, because if I don't tell you the perspective of a teacher, how else would you know? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure she felt terrible. I'm sure that this is not at all what she wants to happen, even though she was probably annoyed that your student had the phone out in the first place. Anyway, we got to move on. So how could this have been handled differently? Yeah, you just accept the payment plan, and you're like, yeah. And I mean, if she wasn't paying you back, yeah, then you contact the school. But, like, she hadn't done any of... Anyway... You shouldn't have. You should have just been upset, but she apologized, gave you a replacement phone, and you should have just accepted that and moved on. I think the true motives here on both sides, I definitely think the teacher was trying to cover her ass because she knows that probably her district is ridiculous about stuff like this, and it could potentially really affect her in a negative way, which is why I would imagine she ventured to come to your home, which, in my opinion, as a male teacher, I would never do that. I would never, ever, ever just show up at a student's home unless they... Like, I've had a student specifically during COVID where their parents were like, come and tune their instrument or something, and the parents request that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to just show up at a student's house. It's just not done. So I at least not in my world. I do think that part I would have called probably first, and been like, hey, would you mind if I come and discuss something with you? So I do think the teacher should have done that. I think maybe the teacher could have specified too, if there was like something where they're like, hey, listen, there's a reason, like, I'm coming to you directly. Our superintendent is just really, really harsh about things, so this could really hurt my career. If she had been upfront like that, I do think probably the original poster would have thought twice before involving it. So I can definitely cut them some slack in that sense, where, like, maybe they just didn't get that this would have such big repercussions for her. However, it's hard not to see this as, like, you felt like what she was doing wasn't enough for you to make up for it, and you needed one more thing to really feel like, I guess, quote, justice was served or whatever. And that's the motivation I get from this. If people disagreed, please tell me. But anyway, we're gonna move on because this one's not making me feel great, but I thought it was important to talk about because it brought up some important points. All right, here's another one revolving education. Am I the asshole for failing students when they missed their midterms because they were, quote, sick? I'm going to leave out some details as this involves students and I don't want to lose my job. I am 47, male, a high school math teacher, and the only male teacher in my grade. I come from a long line of teachers and both my parents are college professors. My father is the chair of his department. As such, I treat my classes as preparation for college rather than a babysitting service. This means I'm more strict than most other teachers in my school, but I'm much more fair. I'm not going to get into this as it's a whole debate among teachers at my school. Everything I expect of the students is clearly spelled out in my syllabus, which has to be signed by the students and their parents. This includes my policy on absenteeism. Basically, students who know they will miss a test ahead of time can do the test a week in advance or no later than 1 day after the scheduled test. Students who miss a test due to a sudden and unforeseen event like being sick must have a valid excuse and a doctor's or parent's note. I also list my test dates in the syllabus and have never had to change the dates in all my years of teaching. This policy is based on nearby colleagues' policies. It is also placed in place as students who are not prepared for tests frequently claim to be sick. Recently, we had our midterms, which is a major part of their grades. Missing it could drop a student's grade by 1 letter. On the day of the test, several students were out sick, and I got emails from all of their parents. This didn't surprise me, and I had prepared for it since the flu is hitting our school hard. During the day, I overheard students talking about a group of students who were streaming and posting on social media about how they were enjoying their day at the amusement park while their friends were taking tests. No, I was not trying to listen in or catch students at anything. I was simply standing outside my classroom door, and they were openly talking in the hallway. Yeah, okay, people have ears. Y'all, just because you're talking around somebody else and you're not talking to them, if they hear you, they can't control sound. Their ear heard sound. Like, sorry. Anyway, to make a long story short, I went on their social media and recorded them. Ugh. Then I sent out emails, including my evidence, to their parents, notifying them that since these students missed their test and their excuse letters were fraudulent, that they are getting 0 for their midterms. For a couple of students, this means they will be failing my class. By the end of the day, this exploded into levels of drama I hadn't anticipated. A couple of the students are favorites of other teachers, and they got in my case to allow the students to take the test. They accused me of being too hard. I'm standing my ground as my policies were clearly stated, and if, when they're in college, their professors will take the same action. Even some of the assistant principals are on my case to be more lenient. I don't know if I'm being too strict, as no one at this school is on my side. This one is a little bit more difficult because I kind of agree. So there's 2 things to this. There is the actual situation that this person is writing about, but then there's also kind of an overlying issue going on here too that I see as a teacher. The first thing I want to talk about is the specific situation. So I personally, as a teacher, wouldn't be comfortable going on to a student's social media and recording it for any reason, personally, just because it's starting to get into messy, privacy waters, in my opinion, even though, yes, they should be in school. Yes, it is during school hours. Their social media is not property of the school. And because all of this stuff is so new, there are very, very unclear guidelines and laws regarding it, especially in education. So it's kind of how do you, there used to be kind of a debate when I was coming up. Let's say a kid got in trouble at the local mall or something, with the cops. I think there used to be a thing where they could let the school handle it if it was like a small enough incident, something like that. I don't know how things go now because of the way the internet is. I would love to actually have someone in law enforcement on and get some answers. That would be fabulous about something like that. But anyway, that's just one thing I wouldn't do personally as a teacher, especially not a male teacher. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. When you are a male teacher, you just have to be 10 times more careful because there are those crazy people out in the world where it's just like, yeah, you just got to be you got to be careful. So I would have just brought up to the principal that you were aware of it and you heard students talking about it. And then if the principal wanted to take it a step further by going onto the social media, that would have been something that is a little bit less weird if they do it, because then you told the higher up about the situation, you know what I'm saying? And you didn't just take it. It's like vigilante justice almost. Like, at this time in the world, you want to protect yourself as a teacher. So what you should have done was talk to the principal. And I'm getting some ASD neurodivergent vibes from this teacher because oftentimes we have an increased sense of justice and we want things to be like, fair. And especially when you're a teacher, you want to make things fair for your students. But this might be one of those situations where you kind of have to pick your battles a little bit. If you're feeling this many people, especially colleagues that you respect, you know what I mean? If people who you have a high opinion of are telling you, hey, you're being a little bit much here, I think you might want to listen to that. However, let's shift gears a little. Students, he had every right to fail you just based on hearsay from other students, or not fail you, but he had every right to at the very least call your parents and be like, hey, this is what was said at school. If I want to go check social media, not me, but you can say I'm sure it's still online. If we want to check on it, what do we do here? And you can't fix everything. Everything's not going to be perfect. I understand wanting it to be, but yeah, I'm with the colleagues here saying we got to find a solution. Now, what would the solution be at this point? Because you've already taken it this far, I do think you have to kind of be a little firm, but give a little. So I would say you let them take the test. However, they automatically lose a certain percentage, whatever is fair. Frankly, I would do 2 letter grades for the lying. I would say even if you get 100%, the maximum points I'm going to give you for this assignment is going to be an 80. Because there has to be some kind of recourse. You cannot, as teachers, you do have to set certain examples. You have to set certain boundaries because, as we can see, it's not being done at home, But this way, the students aren't going to fail your class, which really, that to me is important because failing a class can screw up a kid's psyche. So I do think on that level, it's no, they need to, I think they get it now. I do, because you've been really firm. So I think if you relent a little here, you will come out the other side happier. You might win some respect for going this hard, but then finding a good way to end it from your colleagues and probably the students. I don't know if that matters to you. And I think you'll just be happy to not think about it anymore too. Let this be something that is behind you, because it's a lot of drama that I wouldn't want following me home. You know what I mean? I don't want to be thinking about this at home. I don't want to be the teacher at school that now all the kids talk about me and they're like, oh, he's the one that stalks our social media to see if we're lying. I don't want that reputation. So yeah, I think I would really rethink your approach here. And going forward too, this was the other thing I wanted to talk about. I get like you come from a family of teachers, as do I. But every situation for teaching is different. Like, I do one-on-one. So my experience as an educator and the level of strictness I'm going to have is going to totally be different from someone who's dealing with a classroom of 30 students. But also that should be different from someone who is dealing with actual college students, because I need to stress this to you. You are, even though you're teaching high schoolers, they're kids. They're still kids. We are pushing kids to grow up so damn fast in this country, and it is ruining generations. My generation got shafted in its own way. Gen Z is getting shafted probably even worse now. So, like, seriously, remember that. Like, these are not 20-year-olds. They're 15 and 16. They're gonna do dumb things. They're gonna lie. They're gonna make mistakes. Now, you are the adult here, and I think it's your job to show them how to navigate this going forward. Now, think about it like this, too. Let's say you hear this, or you've just thought, and you come to the conclusion that, okay, I think I overreacted a little. All right, show your students how a real, healthy adult person handles that situation. And then this is something we've talked about before with parenting, but it can go with education too. If you make a mistake, I think, especially something like this, I'm not saying you should apologize to these students by any means, but I'm saying show them that you don't have to go to the mat when you know you're wrong. It's okay to back down once you have that information. You get what I'm saying? All right. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Let's go back and put some pumpkins. Oh, actually, we're going to do that later. Yes. Because I want to do a wrap up with... Okay. Cool. Rather than do our typical put a cherry on it recap where we go through everything we talked about in the episode and sort of just find the little life lessons and the little ways that everyone involved can learn to grow, which is kind of the name of the game here. We are actually just going to take this moment to thank you guys for coming back to us after such a long break and listening to this really long, maybe a little bit messy, but heartfelt Halloween special. If you listen to the entire thing from beginning to end, you are truly a rock star, because I know it's a long haul. If you jumped around, really, I mean, I'm just thrilled you're here at all, so don't feel bad. But either way, we're glad to have you back, and I hope to be seeing you guys again soon. Hopefully it won't be such a long time this time. Who knows? Maybe we've got some cool projects coming up. You guys will have to stay tuned. All right. Yeah, it's Mischief Night, Night before Halloween, October 30th, if you're listening to this the day it dropped. Whoever is out there, this is my final advice to you. Unless there is something completely stopping you from doing it, this year, 2022, this Halloween, do something fun for yourself, please. Because I know I got students who got projects and stuff due, and I'm even telling them, listen, you've got a few years left to trick or treat. Do it while you still can. Like, any adults who are out there, you can't go trick or treating. If there is a party you were thinking about not going to or whatever, I mean, just do the thing you want to do that will make you the most happy. Stay at home and hand out candy. Eat. Just do something other than nothing. And if you can't do anything, that's fine too. But I mean, we all deserve a little bit of a break right now, I think. So yeah, that's it. Peace.
the sunshine of our entertainment production. Happy Halloween.